Okay, this video is going to be called The Art of Living. And the art of living is an idea that is based on the classical liberal arts, loosely, and which includes the classical liberal arts in its process, but is not tied to it in any way. Okay, so the art of living starts at the beginning with the univium. The univium is an aesthetic, an environment which is conducive to the healthy brain and body development of the infant child, which we have to recognize that today our environment is a chemical bath, and for an infant to be introduced to this chemical bath, this matrix of toxicity, no wonder that there are so many diseases and chronic illnesses that that children's bodies and minds are expressing in our culture. The fact that autism and diabetes, obesity, and depression, even certain neurological disorders and so forth, are not only just prevalent but almost on a level of common and epidemic-like levels, is indicative of the fact that we basically have a disease in our environment, and that disease can only be cured by our changing that environment. So this stage is really an expression of a need to have a healthy environment for our human brethren and for the new life that is emerging. And the second stage of this process, this art of living, is the bivium. The bivium is characterized by fractal geometry and complex music. Stimulation really is at the core of that process, of that aesthetic as well, which leads us into a stage which should be commonly understood, but which is not in our culture, called the trivium. And the trivium is the first stage of the classical liberal arts. It has three components to it: grammar, logic, and rhetoric. And once one has come through the trivium, they are a critical thinking individual. And they are also aware of the fact that they live in a community and that they are interdependent with others. That being evident in the idea of rhetoric, because that's a communicative concept. So the next stage then is the quadrivium. The quadrivium is math, geometry, music, and astronomy. And once one has gone through the quadrivium, they understand the world around them and are capable of really making conclusions of their own about the nature of reality, at least on a superficial level. Now, the importance of those two stages is that it gives one a sense of mastery of their realm. However, it does not give one a sense of self-mastery. And so this individual, myself, has created a stage that is an extension of that, which I call the Pentivium. The Pentivium is a 5-stage process which starts with a purification. Purification being medicinal therapy and meditative study or contemplation. So this is a stage, the first stage of the Pentivium is a state of purification and therapy from a de-education or a deprogramming from the cultural conditioning that we are exposed to throughout our entire lives. From cradle to grave, we are essentially indoctrinated to believe the materialistic, consumerist value system ideology that is common in the Western, European, and pretty much anywhere that's under the dominion of the World Bank and IMF. And so this is a vital stage in our art of living, but it is also vital that we then, having a more open mind, go to the second stage, which is a consolidation, meaning a study of the sacred texts throughout the ages. And also, I mean, we have new visionaries of today, some of them being more modern and more contemporary, some of them less, but for instance, Ken Wilber and his Sex, Ecology, Spirituality, Bruce P. Lipton with various books, but one of them specifically being Spontaneous Evolution, with Manly P. Hall's The Secret Teachings of All Ages, and finally Tom Campbell's My Big Toe. And if one reads these books, I assure you they will come out of it with a transformative, transcendental, and just evolutionary perspective of reality. Something that is much more in tune with the actual reality than our billiard ball Newtonian physics perspective. And so once one has consolidated this information, the next stage is to teach others that information and to actually exert that teaching in application, to apply the knowledge, which I call a stage of exertion. And in this stage, one might use the concept of sex as a spiritual practice, and in doing so may have a child, in which case the univium and bivium and the other previous stages will apply and will be actually an aspect of the exertion stage, which is creating that aesthetic. That's another aspect of the exertion stage that's very important, if not vital, is to create an aesthetic that is conducive to infantile development, and as well as creating an environment in ourselves, eating organic food, exercising, and so forth. In this kind of an alternative paradigm that we're talking about here, we wouldn't be working at jobs, as we would be working, certainly, but we wouldn't have jobs at corporate industries and centralized sorts of businesses. No, this is a situation where we would maybe be working 4 hours a day, if not less, and so we would have more time on our hands. And in fact, the participatory nature of the education system that I'm talking about, with the univium, bivium, trivium, and quadrivium, would be participatory in the sense that parents and other adults would be able to actually engage with children in the education process. Of course, there would still be teachers and so forth, but the ability to engage in that process is also, I believe, a vital in not only creating flow, which we can talk about later, but also in creating an environment that is conducive to children's desire to learn. So once we've gotten to this exertion stage, the next stage is to create a state of balance in ourselves and in our process of purification, study or consolidation, and finally exertion, such that we then reach a state of self-mastery in this process and in our lives in general. And once we have reached that state of self-mastery or sovereignty, we then have the power, the empowerment necessary to effectively and happily, peacefully play. That is the final stage of the Pentivium, is play, which you could also call causation, because at this point we are now the cause of our own creation. We are creators, co-creators of our own culture and civilization. And I believe that is a vital idea in our times, because we're all very welcome to the idea of play as our purpose in life. And play is very vital. It has been shown in various studies in positive psychology and in other studies like Richard Lau's Last Child in the Woods, that play is vital to children's learning and ability to learn and willingness to learn. And so it is with us, with adults. For some reason there's this idea that play should be thrown away as we reach adulthood, but this is only because play is not profitable. Play is not profitable in our society and in our civilization, and frankly, if play is not profitable, then maybe profit needs to be thrown out the window. And so this is the art of living. And there is also a final stage, but I will get into that in the next video, called the Hexivium. But this will suffice for now. I'm glad that you were watching, and I'm very happy that we can have this communication. Love and appreciation. Agape.